Russia needs to introduce censorship and restrictions on freedom of information, said the press secretary of the Russian president Dmitry Peskov. After a full-scale invasion of Ukraine, Russia has entered a period of acute inflammation, which justifies restrictions and censorship justifies it. We are in a state of war, Peskov said in an interview with TASS propaganda agency. And the Russian law enforcement officers do not want to check Peskov regarding disinformation. After all, they have already imprisoned dozens of people for posts on social networks because you cannot call a war against Ukraine a war inside Russia. This is like a special military operation for them, which, by the way, is already taking place on the territory of Moscow and Kursk regions. Of course, Peskov blames the West for everything, but it was the representatives of the Kremlin who started this war, and they are to blame for everything that is happening in Russia. According to Peskov, Russia has reached a level of critical confrontation with the countries of the collective West, and the most respected international media often do not hesitate to tell lies. At the same time, he noted that when the war ends, Russia should again have complete freedom of information. We all know what complete freedom of information they had and still have, from the times of USSR. In early September, Putin said that the media in Russia are free, and the only requirement for them is compliance with Russian laws. This is firmly guaranteed by the Russian constitution. Kremlin authorities are convinced of the need for pluralism and openness in the information sphere, Putin said. And that's why all bloggers who have more than 10,000 subscribers in any social network should have to register in Roskomnadzor, so that if some KGB officer wanted to find them, he wouldn't have to look hard. After all, the Russian authorities introduced military censorship after the start of the full-scale invasion of Ukraine. In particular, laws were introduced on discrediting the army and fakes. In the summer of 2023, Roskomnadzor reported blocking access to 206,000 resources with false information about the war, discrediting the Russian army, as well as calls for unauthorized actions. Since February 2022, the agency has blocked access to websites of a dozen media outlets due to repeated posting of prohibited content, including false information about military actions in Ukraine, as stated by them. According to the World Ranking of Freedom of Speech and Information, the Global Expression report, in 2022 and 2024, Russia took 148th place out of 161. At the same time, before the war in Ukraine, Russia was in the 113th place in the ranking. Therefore, in Russia, there is either Kremlin truce or none at all.